We had one.
First, I think. Spot to read.
Good morning and welcome to the June 17th Walton County Technical Review Committee meeting. Our first item of business this morning is to review and approve the minutes from the June 3rd Technical Review Committee meeting. Do we have any recommended changes to those minutes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve at the dais?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, motion is carried, the minutes have been approved. Do we have any announcements this morning, Karen or Rachel? Okay. Then we'll move right into project review. We do have a number of continuances this morning, and we'll go ahead and take those. Essentially involves the first 5 projects. Agenda item number 2, the Draper Lake PUD. We have a request to continue to July 15, 2020 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. We have a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to continue to July 15th as stated.
Have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This particular development has attracted a lot of attention in the public, as it certainly should. It's attracted a lot of attention from county staff. We have a resubmittal. We have not had a chance to review that. There's recently been a community meeting, and we continue to receive public comments on a daily basis on this particular project in an effort to make sure this project is properly reviewed and has every opportunity to consider public comment. We're going to continue this project to the July 15th Technical Review Committee meeting. We have a motion at the dais. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Thank you very much, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank the members of the public that have taken time to send us written comments, both by regular mail and by email. We certainly appreciate the public's involvement in this particular project. This is a very important piece of real estate in Walton County from a public standpoint, and we want to make sure that this review gets done thoroughly, and the public has adequate time to comment on this particular parcel. Oh, we did vote. Okay. Sorry. That'll move us to item number 3, the Saltwater Subdivision. We have a request to continue to the July 1st Technical Review Committee meeting to allow further discussions with the neighborhood.
Motion to continue to July 1st.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to July 1st, 2020, Technical Review Committee meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. That moves us to item number 4 on our agenda this morning, the Sandestin Mini Golf and Ferris Wheel. This is a request to approve by minor development order. We have a request to continue this morning till August 5th, 2020. Concurrence from Sandestin Owners Association is a requirement for this particular development and this particular application. And this will provide additional time for them to negotiate and obtain that concurrence if it's available. Could we have a motion to continue to August 5th, 2020?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to August 5th, 2020 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. That moves us to item number 5 on our agenda, the Mac Bayou development. We have a request to continue this item to July 1st to complete satisfaction of comments. Do we have a motion at the dais?
Motion to continue.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Bill. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to July 1st, 2020 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. That moves us to item number 6, the Parkside subdivision, PUD. Request to continue to July 15th. We have a request to continue to July 15 to allow the applicant and the neighborhood some additional time to further discuss this particular project and the previous submittal approved on this particular site. So we'll entertain a motion to continue to July 15.
Motion to continue.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jonathan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to July 15, 2020 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. That. Want to revote or confirm the vote? Yes, the secretary was unable to record the vote, so we're going to take a vote on that last item, the Parkside subdivision continuance to July 15. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Do we hear from Donna?
Can you hear me, Mac?
Yeah, got you, Jonathan. Can't hear you, Jonathan.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Did you vote?
That's an aye vote.
Thank you. Charlene, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Did we get your vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Those were the ayes. Any opposed likewise? Seeing none, motion carried. This item is continued to July 15, 2020 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. And that will move us to item number 7. I think we have some people that were waiting outside. And accommodate those folks. That everybody? Thank you. This minor development's been reviewed by Bob Baranti. Bob, if you would introduce it for us.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a minor development order application submitted by Core Engineering and Consulting on behalf of Jars Cove LLC, requesting to develop 8 single-family lots on 5.62 plus or minus acres with a future land use of residential and zoning districts of neighborhood infill. The project is located from the intersection of State Route 30 and Highway 293, head east on U.S. Highway 98, turn left into North Holiday Road, turn left into Forest Shore Drive, turn right into Walton Way, and the destination will be at the end of the road, as identified by the parcel number in your staff report. Mr. Chair, all comments have been addressed. This project meets the comprehensive plan. The agent is here to answer any questions you may have, and if you don't have any questions, I'd like to ask you to enter the staff report in the record.
Thank you, Bob. So entered.
And any questions for me before I turn it over to the agent?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning. Zach Brandon from Core Engineering with the Jars Cove development. I believe we've answered most questions that were. We had an issue with the posting of the sign, and we relocated the sign posting.
Tell us about the stormwater.
The stormwater.
What's the design and what kind of storm are we meeting as far as the standard?
That would be a question for Ed. He's on his way. He's late. He designed this, but I believe
Good morning, Ed.
Hey, I apologize. Thought I was going to get a, hey, come in. You're ready. Jars Cove, 8-lot subdivision. You know, it's a very interesting piece of property. It's down at the end of a cul-de-sac, but the property itself winds off the cul-de-sac, as you can see in the site plan. We have a stormwater system that drains across the lots into the road and then down into a dry retention pond, portion of the lots back up to a significant wetland area. So we have a vegetative natural buffer that has been designed, you know, according to state and your standards. We had some comments originally. Actually, this site plan changed considerably from the first time we actually were heard, and that had to do with a fire apparatus turnaround that we added in the center so that Sammy and his guys could meet NFPA requirements. Let's see, everything else is fairly simple. I mean, water and sewer are at the door or at the property line. We're enhancing the existing cul-de-sac. We don't necessarily have to do that, but we've been told that there's issues with buses turning around there after they pick up kids and drop off kids on Walton Way, so we thought that was a pretty decent idea. I know in one of the comments from someone, they said that the right-of-way is encroached or private property is encroached by that cul-de-sac. We went back and made sure that the edge of pavement is not off the right-of-way. Let's see, what else do we have here? We understand there's a lot of comments here from a few folks, and they're here in the audience, and we'd be happy to address anything that's, code-related. There are questions about compatibility. These are smaller lots, smaller homes. Walton Way is a mixed bag of some, tighter knit communities that, and with smaller homes, maybe even you could categorize them as townhomes, to larger lots, bayfront lots, and we understand that. But we feel like this is a secluded enough project with a lot of separation that it meets the test of compatibility. We were asked how much the homes will be sold for, or at least the market price initially, and it's somewhere in the 500s. 2,500 square feet up, 2 and 3 stories possibly. That's the gist of this deal. It's fairly straightforward deal, really. We're not encroaching in the wetlands, and we have fairly decent soils in the uplands, so that's why we're able to do the combination of dry retention and vegetative natural buffer. But I'm here to answer any questions anybody has. So,
It's my understanding this development will be platted and we'll have a homeowners association.
absolutely,
That
yeah.
would be-
HOA documents, common space that will be maintained and operated by the HOA. That would include the utilities, the roads, and the mail delivery kiosk, those type of things.
Any other questions for applicant?
I wanted to say one thing. There was a mistake in the application, and that had to do with a glitch with the PDF system. It was Adobe. We were having issues with it at one point, so when we would change the number, it would change in our file, and then it got uploaded. I see this in one of the comments, and the number that was uploaded was incorrect. However, the number that is in the site plan and everywhere else is correct. That's the 5.62 acres. So we apologize for that, but we didn't find out till later that it was happening.
Okay, this is a minor development, so we're going to take the opportunity to open a public hearing and invite anyone in our audience or dialed in through Zoom to make public comments or ask questions about this particular development. Do we have anyone in the audience this morning that wishes to comment about this development? Yes, sir, if you would come to the podium and state your name and spell your last name for the record.
I have the PowerPoint that on the little, My name is Jim McDowell, McDowell. I live directly across the street from this development. I also am the head of the Property Owners Association for Whispering Oak Subdivision. It's approximately 50 pieces of property and homes along Walton Way. We're here today to say we oppose this development. We think it will devalue our homes. We feel like it's a piece of property that was bought, and they're going to build houses, you know, on the backs of our investment in our homes. Let's go to the first slide if we could. One of the first things we'd like to complain about is that they're required to submit minutes of the meeting that they had early on in the system back last September. The minutes are really a farce to me, because if you look at the minutes, they come and they have different places. They say, we ask a question. They say, we answered a question, but they don't record what the answer was. So we really have nothing to go back in the minutes to show, you know, how they answered our questions and what they promised to do. We've got several things we'll talk about later that in particular they promised to do, they failed to do. But the minutes that they submitted are just, they're really a farce as to what they really ought to have. Next slide. How about slide 3? There you go. Part of the land development code, in the code it says that the residents that you have the right to, or you're supposed to check the compatibility of with the existing area around it. The houses that are around this development are nothing like the development that's being planned. They got people with multi-million-dollar houses located within 1,000 feet of this development that are going to have the values of those houses devalued by putting in a development like this. They did not put any pictures or give us any information about what the houses were going to look like. So we actually went out and looked to try to find some developments that are small lots, 3-story, that we believe, you know, as far as we can tell, will be similar to what they're going to build. But we just think that they're building a piece of property to make money on the backs of our people. It also, the land development code has them, they must take care of looking at the vested rights of the people that live around there. And I quote as a part of the next one on slide 4, yes, that the LDC code establishes that we have vested rights in our existing properties.
Excuse me, can you point to the exact code citation you're referring to there?
I don't have the page in there.
I mean, do you have the code citation that you're referring to there?
I did that directly out of the Land Development Code, Chapter 5. Went onto your website, got the Chapter 5, and establishing vested rights of the existing properties around it. But you have supposed to take into account those our vested rights that we have invested, like my life savings is built in my house.
No, I understand that. I'm just trying to understand what part of the code you're referring to. I can't read that from you.
Right.
And we're not talking about a neighborhood place in this part of the county. So I don't think we can pull that part of the code out for this particular project because it talks about another process. We have a number of neighborhood plans that have been approved in Walton County. We have one that's being developed right now over in the Seagrove area, but that's specific to that particular neighborhood planning program.
Okay, because I couldn't say that it made any difference in what I read in the code myself. Not being an expert,
No, I understand.
I went through the code. It says, I have vested interest in my property, and it's our belief in the subdivision that these houses are not going to help the values of our house.
understand it. Can I ask one question
Yes,
though
sir.
on that? Because I've driven over there and I understand where you live and I
Yes, sir.
understand what we have
Right,
on the north side
right.
of that street. Have you looked at what we have on the south side of that street
Yes, sir.
and what the property values are on the south side of that street?
I'm looking at the size of the lots and the property values are almost all, I haven't looked at the ones necessarily
I
on the
have.
south side of the street.
I have, after
Okay.
you wrote me a letter.
Yes, sir.
And provided the detailed information you provided, and thank you very much for that. But after you did that, I went out to your neighborhood,
Mhm.
and I parked my car, and I looked at what we have out there.
Right,
We have some very expensive homes, very large lots on the bay side.
right.
On the other side of the street, we have smaller homes that are in the 250 to 300,000 range, all the way back to the subdivision that you mentioned in here that have
Right.
not got any houses built on it. So I'm struggling to understand your argument about compatibility when directly across the street, we got a 250 to 300 range in values.
I think I haven't looked at the
have.
tax codes of saying how much they're worth.
I
But
walked,
there are a lot of houses that are in over the 300,000 range in there. So I'm thinking that the people that live that have the big houses down there, multi-million-dollar houses
yes, sir.
that are being affected by this development, putting in these kind of houses. Our opinion, that's what we think.
I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Okay, next slide, please. This is a part of your agenda has this particular slide on there that goes through and shows the value, the houses that are being developed. Each one of the lots over there, the average size of that lot is a quarter of an acre, about 0.22 acres. And the average lot of all the lots along Walton Way are in excess of 1 acre. The values of the houses, they're talking about, in the $500,000 range. Most of these houses that I list here are in the $1 million range. We think that the compatibility, even though I brought it up with Mr. Barante, and he said that there's no requirement for a compatibility study in their application. I don't understand why, but there's no requirement for the developer to put a compatibility statement in there. But we're trying to make the idea that the compatibility of these houses is not compatible with the ones that we had that are in existence now. Next slide. I went along and I went over closer to the beach and found a development that is about the same size acres, the same size setbacks, and all that are 3 stories high. And these houses would look similar, look there, that are in the top slide, top picture there. We've not been given a picture of actually what their houses are going to look like, but when you start talking about 3-story houses on small lots with small area in between, we project they'll look something like this. Then I went down and I took pictures of the houses that are along my street, and I put what they look like compared to these other ones. And I don't think there's any way that you can say that these houses are compatible with the ones that currently
Are
exist.
any of those pictures taken on the south side of the road?
No, sir.
They're all on the north side, adjacent to the bay.
That's mainly because these houses have great big lots and they have trees in it to where you can't take a picture from the south side looking north. You can't take a picture of that because there's so many trees in it. You can't see my house from the road.
Those trees provide some measure of buffering between the roadway and your house?
They're made they're part of my lot.
Yes, sir. But
Yeah.
you keep them there to protect you from whatever might be.
I'm
on
not
the
worried so
roadway.
much about the buffer as I am when those houses go to sell, and they sell, and they have recorded what they sell for, how that's going to devalue my lot itself.
Okay, and I just have to point out that the house is directly across the street, and I went to the property appraiser records, and I looked at them. I mean, they're in the 250 to 300 range, directly across the street. And there's none
Okay.
right across the street from your house because those lots are vacant right there where this project is being proposed. But the
Right.
ones back to the east, and I'm talking about the ones between your house on the south side of the road and the subdivision that was developed a few years ago that has no homes built in it yet.
Right. When the West Spring Oaks was developed, basically you bought a lot on the water. They gave you the lot across the street to put your house on there. And also that the county used to allow you to develop that, take those lots and divide them in two to where you could put two houses on one lot. But, you know, that was part of the development. That's been cut out in the new code to where now they can't in our subdivision go and subdivide a lot. But all those lots on the other side of the street, the south side of the street, each lot is in excess of 1 acre lots. They're all about 1 acre lots.
Were they created before sewer was available on that street?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
I think they were.
Well, I moved there in 2000 and the sewer was already there.
That very well could be part of the reason for the size of the lots.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, next slide. I noticed on your agenda, if you go to your webpage and look at the agenda, one of the items on there says give a picture, a one-page site plan, and it's required, you know, it's supposed to be there. But in order for you guys to decide on what it is, you should have correct information. The site picture that you have on your agenda package is the wrong package. It does not include the turnaround for the fire truck. It doesn't include where the hydrants have been moved to. It doesn't include anything. It seems to me like you should have the right information to make a decision on this property. Okay, now we'd like to go into some of the things that are on the application itself. One of the very first things that it puts on there in the development says that the county requires 5% of this development to be a recreational area. They claim in their first page or so on there that they are allowing 3.5 or so acres for recreational area. That is absolutely impossible. There's no place on the drawing that says this is recreational area. And if you look at some of these, look at the calculations that they have. The calculation shows that total acres for the whole facility is 5.62 acres. Now, if you take just the land for the 8 houses, that represents 1.82 acres. That leaves about 3.79 for recreation. You subtract the wetland, 2.85 acres. That leaves 0.94. You subtract the roadway and the sidewalk, that's another. You subtract the buffer zone, which is 0.52. That leaves you, you subtract the pond itself. You're required to have 2.81 acres of recreational area, and there's no place on the drawing that allows you to have recreational area to meet what they claim. I mean, it's not there. They do not meet the LDC code for recreation at 5%. No place on there that shows that they can. Next slide, please. Corps engineers, HBC, hired Southern Earth Sciences, I think is the name of the company, to develop their stormwater plan. The stormwater plan is meant to keep this water from going to the bay, which is directly next to where this water drains into. In the plans and all the calculations that Corps makes, they make a claim that the water table is at a 5-foot elevation. It shows that their calculations are at a 5-foot elevation in their stormwater plan. And yet, if you look at the data that they paid for from Southern Engineering at the upper corner, which is located here, is where they made the request, located almost directly where the retention pond is. They state that the groundwater table there is 1.1 feet below the existing water, existing land. And that land is located right about 9 feet, but it's just a little bit past the 10-foot mark. But that shows that that water table, and it should be an elevation of about 7.8 feet. Now, their calculations are all based on that water table being at 5 feet, and they're designating that their retention pond is going to be at a level of an elevation of 6 feet, which says that it's going to be 1 foot above their calculated water table. But their own data shows that the water table for that pond is at 1.1 feet, which means they're going to be normally, if the water table is there during the wet season, is going to have water standing in it the whole time.
That elevation 1.1 or 1.1
It's
feet
1
below
point-
the
The
surface?
existing level, it says it's going to be 1.1 feet below the existing level.
Okay.
The existing level is about 9 feet, closer to 10, which means the elevation for the water table is going to be at about 8 feet, 7.8 feet. And they're talking about digging a retention pond that's 6 feet, but at a level of 6 feet, which means nothing but they're going to have standing water if they use that the whole time they've got it. It also means to me that in order to meet the area, they're going to have a shallower, larger pond, and there's no place on this plan to build a larger retention pond. There's no place on there to do that.
The proposed bottom of the elevation of the pond is elevation 8.
No, the proposed bottom of the pond is 6 feet. The top of the pond is going to be 8 or 9 feet, but the bottom is proposed to be at 6 feet, which would be 2 feet below the water table that their data shows. Okay, next slide. The Public Works Division asked the applicant to clearly show on the site plan that the road is a privately maintained roadway. That's what their comment came back and said. The original plan had in the upper right-hand corner, just a very small corner, if you really look hard, you can find it, had a sign that said, this is a private drive. It doesn't say anything about being privately maintained. And the applicant came back and says, okay, our plan shows it. They submitted, which you don't have here, but because you have the wrong one. But the revised plan that they have shows nothing that the Public Works asked for. It does not show that that road is a privately maintained roadway as they requested. So somebody who comes up and buys this piece of property, they come to the county and they look at this property, they don't see that they're going to be responsible for maintaining that road, which may affect their decision on whether they buy or not, knowing that they have to be the ones to maintain that road.
Yes, sir, but that would be addressed in the covenants and restrictions.
In what?
That will be addressed in the covenants and restrictions.
But shouldn't it be in the plan? If the county road department asked them to do it and they came back and said, it's already in there, we're not doing it, I don't see how you can let them get away with that, but that's neither here nor there.
This is a labeling issue on the plan.
Sir?
This is a labeling issue on the plan.
Correct.
We'll get the label on there. That won't be an issue.
And it is labeled as a 41-foot access and utility easement across the lots. Portion of the drive, I believe.
And my plans actually have it on there, so
Yeah, I see it.
I don't, yeah, it may be small, but we can make it bigger.
Make it bigger so
Okay,
it's
I
plain.
circled it right here if you want to see it.
Thank you, sir.
Next slide. People that look at this stormwater plan And even I talked with the people from Dewberry Engineering, and it's kind of like really a strange way to come and put a retention pond at the top of a hill. You know, the only reason they do that is because they can get in another lot or two in 6 or 7 or 7 or 8 is the only reason I can figure out why. But this hill going to the retention pond, the street goes uphill. On lot 7 and 8, the street goes uphill. Now, they're talking about they're gonna grade the lots to where the lot itself will be, you know, even with the pond. But that doesn't take care of a lot of the water that comes off of those lots. The lots come down, the sidewalk goes downhill, goes down directly into the wetlands, and then directly into the bay. The land that they build for the cul-de-sac, if you look at the cul-de-sac and where the water is going to come for that, it's to the north of where their entrance to their pond is, and there's no place really for that water to go, except to go down into the wetlands. It's just a crazy idea to come and put that we're going to have, you know, a stormwater pond at the north, at the highest point in a piece of property. It just doesn't make sense. Next slide. If you look at the gradings along the road there, it's normally now around 7 or 8 feet line is where the houses on lot 7 and 8 are going to be. When you get down to the end of the lot, there's about a 4-foot drop that goes from the lot down into there's a 4-foot, you know, elevation line that is at the end of that, into those lots. There's no wall built there to try to contain that dirt and water and silt from going directly down into the pond itself. Plus the lots, if they grade it up to like the 8 or 9 feet, Walton Way itself is going to have a downflow to where the water is going to flow directly down onto the concrete and directly onto Walton Way. It's just an incorrect way to do to protect the wetlands from getting that water and silt coming down from a 4-foot drop in the land itself. I want to go a little bit into at the meeting itself that we had. There was a man there from HCB, from Blake, somebody, that came, and the neighbors all complained that at the very other end of the street, this company has a development that's being built, that's been sitting idle for, I'm guessing, 2 years, that he promised to go in there. We complained it looked like just a rat-infested, it's got a field with dirt and all. He promised to get that land, you know, bush hogged and cleaned up and trying to keep it and be a good neighbor. None of those promises were made, were kept. Right now, if you go down to that property, you'll see it's being used where somebody's gone and stored a boat. There was also a whole load of trash out there with pieces of furniture stored, etc. But we think if they come up and develop this, we want them to keep the promises that we want them to keep promises that they're going to keep it up and keep the, like on this property here, the stormwater pond is covered in grass and weeds, and it's not being upkept at all. We have a caller, I don't know whether he's on there yet or not, that wants to talk about one of the things that the land code allows you to consider is going to be access to the property. If you look at the property, or Walton Way at the beginning of the property, there is a bridge there that is substandard bridge. The bridge is fallen in. Every now and then I mean, the county has to come out and put asphalt in there where it keeps falling down through the culvert in that pond. I mean, in that area.
This is public street and a public bridge?
Public street, public bridge. It's on the, we had a talk with, Stephanie Jones of the county road department. That bridge has been deemed as being substandard. It's being deemed as, in line to be repaired, to be fixed. But she said it's not going to be fixed for at least another year. Not on the property to be fixed. When this company starts coming in with heavy trucks to bring in dirt and to carry out the trees and all they got, that bridge stands a real good chance of completely failing. And that's going to leave, that's the only road in and out of our subdivision. So if that bridge gets destroyed and a storm comes through and we can't get out, it could be disastrous for our residents.
Do you have any information on the bridge?
I don't. I think we actually discussed this when a previous project come through a couple years ago, and where they went out there and evaluated it. It sounds like I'd have to confirm with Charlie Cotton and Stephanie, but it sounds like they may have programmed an improvement, but I don't see if there was a imminent failure, then obviously additional actions would have been taken. So, I mean, I'm happy to follow up on that, but it seems like it's been programmed, and it's just a matter of permitting at this point.
Right. We talked to Stephanie, and she said that, it could be at least up to a year, and with COVID, it could be longer than that. And we feel like, yeah, normal traffic, you get cars across there is not a problem. But you come up and you put some heavily loaded trucks with dirt and those trees that got to come out. That bridge stands a really good chance of, because about I'm saying 6 months, they have to come back in there and put more asphalt in to keep the hole. You can also see in the picture, you can see where the railings are kind of like falling off the side of the road, into the DOT ditch by itself. It's a dangerous bridge. When you go across it now, you better really be going slow because there's a curve there and you can't hardly get around it. But we don't think that it ought to be allowed to develop that property with that kind of a bridge there. Next slide. Back in 14, there was a big water flood area, and the water came across Walton Way there, out of the Emerald Bay development, the golf course and all, and washed out part of Walton Way. Right at the corner as you go into the Jars Cove is my house. Right in front of my house, the road was washed out to where now it's just dirt and gravel. About 2/3 of the westbound lane are washed out. So, and no, the county has not taken anything to go and fix that in 4 years now, 5 years. When somebody comes along the road there.
Right. You're telling me that there's storm damage and
Yes, sir.
2/3 of the travel lane has been
Of the
washed
westbound
out
lane is
and
gone.
has not been repaired?
Has not been repaired. There's a picture of it right here. This road goes over another 10 feet.
This is Walton Way?
That's Walton Way,
I know
right in front of
that.
my house.
I did not see that when I went there.
It's right in front of my house.
Way washed out.
Well, I measured it, sir.
I mean,
I went out with my tape and I measured it. It's got about that much of the westbound lane left. It's a picture of it right there.
can you get Public Works to follow up on that?
Yeah, I'll get with Stephanie, and we'll take a look at that.
In summary, this plan does not meet the code. It can't have a retention pond that can meet the criteria. It's going to always have water in it. And it also, the retention pond, and there's no recreational area.
They may have to buy that out.
I don't understand what buying out is. There's no place in there. It just knows that they claim on their deal that it's 3.5 acres on there. That's a false claim. There is no place designated, and there's no recreational area on that property.
There's not one shown on the site plan.
Sir?
The site plan is what we look at.
Right, there's none on there.
shown on there. There is an opportunity for a developer to pay 5% of the most recent assessed value of the property to the county as mitigation for not providing that on site. That is a very frequent provision of the code that developers call on. County then takes that money and puts it back into park projects that serve the greater community.
Well, what I look on it as is that these people over there with 8 houses are going to be looking for a recreation, place to go and sit and have a picnic or go do something. Now, with no recreation area on there, they're going to be walking down toward my house and going, there's a road beside my house that goes to a lot that goes to the bay. There's a vacant lot there, and we see them going and coming down to do their recreation there, as opposed to, they could go all the way down to the DOT Parkway, which the county there has some property that they just got through redoing. That'd be okay, but it'd be coming up and trying to coming down on our property. We see people, coming down and messing with our property. But in summary, we recommend that you can't possibly, approve this with the way that it doesn't meet the code. The pond itself cannot, where they got their 5 feet for the elevation for the water table, they don't explain anywhere in there. No test data, no nothing that says where they got their 5 feet elevation for that stormwater plant. That's all I've got to say.
We'll give the engineer an opportunity to respond to your questions and provide answers.
Great.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else wish to make a comment on this one? Yes, sir. Come to the podium and state your name for the record, please.
I'm Steve Young, Y-O-U-N-G, and I'm a member. I live in Whispering Oaks, next to Jim. I'm a Choctachi Basin Alliance. I sit on the board. I'm part of the executive committee. Do a lot with the organization. I test 10% of the water sites in our oyster garden. So my comments are going to be about the stormwater and the effect on the bay, because for our community, the bay is our most valuable asset. All right. So the main thing, as Jim pointed out on the stormwater, there's definitely an issue with the lots 1 through 6, and how they flow, because into that stormwater pond, or whether it's going to go down the road, and into the bay. So that part I don't like. But the bigger issue, really comes into the lots number 7 and number 8, that are right, on the lower component, because they are below even the current stormwater, the retention pond. So the water isn't going to flow there. It's going to flow, into the bay. And now, if you raise them, as Jim pointed out, now we have other issues with the silt. Well, there's a couple of things that go into it with the silt that Jim didn't mention that I wanted to put on record. First off, the wetlands that's there is used by the county, right? Let's assume you know that. That's the for the sewer. That's the station, which you wrote. It's right next to the sign. That little water. It's number 25. That is for the sewage. The final filter, right? Which I think is a great idea. You pump that water through the wetland. That's the final filter before it goes into the bay. I think it's a wonderful thing.
You're talking about sanitary sewer. You're talking about stormwater.
Stormwater thing. It's the filter. Sorry, stormwater
in
sewer.
Some states, sanitary sewer and storm sewer can be combined, but not in Florida.
No, you're right. Good. You're right. So it's the stormwater, but it's that final filter is what the wetlands does before it goes into the bay.
Wetlands provides the treatment.
Wetlands provides the treatment, right? So I think I'm all for that. That's a wonderful thing. You start bringing in, this is where the silt comes in. You start building up those lots, and the angle of repose is too steep. Now you start filling in that filter. That wasn't ever part of the plan, and I think that affects the county, and it affects the bay, and it affects the bay in a couple of ways. Sure, we never want to harm the bay, But that area in the bay just happens to be a little bit on the special side. You're not just harming the bay, you're also harming the fishing guides. You know, I live on the bay, I see the dock, they're there pretty much every day. There's 3 different boats, and the guides are there because, hey, this is one of the best grass flats in the bay. So you start putting silt, you know, in on top of the grass flats, that kills off the grass flats. Now you're harming not only the bay, but you're also harming the livelihood of the guides that make their living there. So what I really, you know, what we're asking for is a reasonable and effective plan to capture that storm water. And right now, with the way that where the retention pond is, there's a whole bunch of issues with it, and that's why we're asking you to reject the current plan, and then they can always rework it and submit it into something that works. Good with that, but please, you know, reject their current plan because it's not effective or reasonable, and there's just too many problems with it. You know, with that, especially lots 7 and 8. Let me go back to that because 7 and 8 right now flow basically right into the bay. There's no way any of that storm water is gonna flow uphill. And then if they did build up 7 and 8, because you got to build it up quite a bit, that's a lot. That's why we are worried about the road and the bridge. Hauling all that dirt across, you raise it up, there's just not enough. It's the angle of repose. You will get silt and things will fall into the wetland. You start filling that up, and the silt goes into the bay. That's the main issue. Okay, and those are my comments.
We're absolutely concerned about the things you described. We're going to give the applicant an opportunity to describe a stormwater plan, and both the county and Dewberry are here that reviewed it to talk about that in detail and see exactly what your concerns are and how they may have been addressed, if they have been.
If they have been. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Come to the podium and state your name for the record. Spell your last name, please.
My name is Frank King, King. I live at 610 Walton Way. Most of the issues have been pretty well addressed. I do want to say, hi, how are you?
What's up, buddy?
I'm kind of worried about the water table situation because there was 3 different levels that I saw on the plans. On number 7, the picture number 7, the right-of-way, if I could ask a question, the asphalt does not get on the private property of Osborne, is that correct?
Correct.
What about the right-of-way for the cove? Now, you're going to be setting a cove up, and you're not taking any private land that's not part of the subdivision for your cove, but doesn't the county require a right-of-way for any roadway? Don't you have a 10-foot right-of-way or at least a 5-foot right-of-way?
Well, I think that's a very good question, and this is a negotiation with the county we will either maintain a portion that sits on our property or we'll dedicate that right-of-way to them.
But the right-of-way will be on someone else's property at that point.
No, a right-of-way will be theirs if we dedicate it to them, but we can also maintain that portion that sits on we're trying to make that cul-de-sac actually effective. What it is right now is just a dead-end road with no real turnaround.
Correct.
The only way that now, we don't have to do this, so we can cut that cul-de-sac off and we can just do a turn into we're trying to be proactive and make things better for the neighborhood and for kids on buses, et cetera. We can eliminate that cul-de-sac is what I'm saying. This is the only way we could see to accommodate the cul-de-sac that's required by their code. And we don't have a problem coming to the table and saying, hey, listen, this much of the cul-de-sac sits on our private property, we will maintain that. The rest of it will be maintained by the county. We don't have to dedicate right away to them. This is just a negotiation that we can work through. It's there. If the county wants us to dedicate right away, we'll dedicate right away to them, right up to the edge of the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
If they don't, if nobody wants this cul-de-sac, we will make this a 24-foot road right into the property, and and everybody can keep what's out there right now. It's a lot easier for us.
I understand, but what I was asking about was when you put the cove in,
Mhm.
and the asphalt does not go on Osborne's property
Correct.
to the north,
Right.
isn't there a right-of-way that has to be wider than the asphalted area?
Correct, and that's on the cove side. You're right.
Wouldn't that be on Osborne's property?
No, we go right up to the right-of-way on
With,
Osborne.
with the right-of-way goes up to his property, so you're not getting on someone else's property?
No, sir.
Thank you. That
And-
takes care of that.
Yep.
The only other thing is what we were originally told by the developer's representative about maintaining the other subdivision he has up the street, which hasn't been done. I'm sorry, I was a developer. I'm retired now, okay? When I had to do this, I had to maintain it if we weren't building in it. I can't see why that wouldn't be unjustified in asking for it, because right now we have 3-foot weeds right up to the road. Thank you.
Code enforcement could be available to help you there. Anyone else in the audience? Yes, ma'am. Come to the podium and state your name for the record and spell your last name, please.
Good morning. I'm Donna Johns, Johns. I live not too far from the property, not on Walton Way, but you have to pass my neighborhood to get to Walton Way currently until you all put that new road in there. Have a couple of questions and a couple of comments. First of all, on the agenda, it states that this is on 8.47 acres, but when the applicant spoke, he said it was 5.62 acres. Which one is correct?
5.62.
Okay, thank you. Also, a big concern of mine is the stormwater and the bay, because we already have a lot of problems with the bay right now, and it's getting worse constantly. And I'm hoping that they have a well-engineered drainage system, because if we're going to be putting any runoff into that bay, we're just maximizing our problems that we already have that we're trying to reduce. So please make sure that they do a really good drainage system and not just let it flow over into the bay. Also, that turnaround point that you're talking about, I've been down that road many times, and if you don't put a turnaround in there, I don't know how those trucks that are going to be doing that construction are going to get in and out of there. It's going to be impossible. The trucks come down our road all the time. They come into my private neighborhood, and there's just nowhere for them to turn around. I mean, they get lost out there, so there needs to be some signage, and there needs to be a way for them to be able to turn around.
I think the cul-de-sac needs to stay.
Yeah, because it's even hard for a car to turn around at the cul-de-sac as it stands right now. So yeah, it does need to increase. Also, I've heard mention of sidewalks. Is the sidewalks just for this particular property, or are they going to be carried all the way down Walton Way?
I think they're for the limits of the parcel.
Thank you. Also, the HOA, are they going to be the ones responsible to maintain the retention pond? Good luck with that one. It's
We have hundreds of HOAs that have responsibility in Walton County for management and maintenance of retention ponds. Some do a very good job, some could use some help.
Yes, and I'm in one of those that could use a lot of help. If you all would like to offer that, that'd be great. We have a hard time. Has there been any traffic survey or anything along there? Because Walton Way is a long, narrow road, and all that traffic is going to end up coming out into Forest Shore, which we still don't have sidewalks on Forest Shore, and that's a safety issue. And so we've got a lot of traffic, we got a lot of trucks going back there, and we have a lot of children and families that ride bicycles, dogs, walk dogs, all that, and that sidewalk is a huge issue. Is there anything looking forward to making those sidewalks, pushing that issue so that we can have those?
Not as part of this project. You are aware of the new road from Walton Way to US 98.
Yes.
So that will provide another outlet.
Right, right. But while they're being built, if they're going to be built anytime soon, before that road's put in, they're going to be going down Forest Shore. And even if that road is put in, there are going to be some of them going down Forest Shore anyway. The question about the developers being able to pay 5% to mitigate the recreation area. Why do we do that?
Done it since 1996 in
Well, I
Walton
mean,
County.
that,
We do that because there isn't always enough land to provide a viable public recreation opportunity on site.
then shouldn't the property be denied if they can't do that?
That would deny their due process rights under the Constitution.
Well, if
Because
they
the
can't
county has passed an ordinance that allows for that kind of mitigation. If you don't have room on your site, you can pay into this fund.
As you pointed out, that was 1996. That's a long time ago, and things probably need to be readdressed because we have got so much building going on in this county
Yes,
that
ma'am.
we
And
need some green area.
it was readdressed in the rewrite in 2018, and we added the recreational impact fee to all housing types, not just single-family plats, the way it was up until 2018, which meant until 2018, an apartment complex paid 0 recreation fee.
Ugh,
That's bad, and we fixed that.
that's bad.
We fixed that for the public.
Good. Well, maybe
and I'm
we
quite
can
proud of
readdress
that.
it. That's
And
great, but maybe we can readdress it again soon and change that because we're running out of land, especially in Miramar Beach. Miramar Beach is kind of like the little stepchild. We don't get a whole lot, as you know, when
Now, we just got a brand-new park purchase in Miramar Beach on the north end of the golf garden.
10 acres, we wanted the whole thing.
And that.
You know, we were told we were going to get the whole thing too. I think that covers everything that I wanted to discuss. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Would the applicant like an opportunity to respond to the comments? Oh, do we have someone on Zoom that wishes to comment also? Dennis, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I was finally, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I would have liked to comment while Jim was giving his presentation to help support some of the stormwater concerns and issues, but I think between Jim and Steve, they did a very good job on our behalf. Apart from that, the only other 2 items I wanted to comment on was, I think Jim may have mentioned it, but it's going back again to the stormwater pond and referring to that as a common space. I don't see how that's a functional common space for that community or any community if it's serving truly as a stormwater pond. And similarly, the wetlands certainly cannot be referred to as a recreation area. Once again, it has no functionality to be called such, and therefore it's not serving as one. I live at 603 Walton Way, and here's the second issue. You brought comment towards housing values. The very quick comment about $200,000 and $300,000 values north of the road was almost embarrassing, and I wish you wouldn't say that. Our home values are not 1 to 1.5 million like those on the water, but our home values are in excess of 500 up to 750,000 north of south of that road. And so we do have good property appraisals up there, and they continue to climb. And still, the homes on that side of the road are still going to be severely impacted by those 2- and 3-story unit that you're proposing at the end of the property. That's all of my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else on Zoom wishing to comment? We have one more. Sarah Moss, can you hear us?
Yes, hi, Matt. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to speak this afternoon or this morning. I think everyone pretty much covered a lot of the issues. I share many concerns with my neighbors, including the wetlands, the flooding, 0 recreation fees, the Baywater runoff, as well as the disproportionate size of the proposed property compared to the surrounding homes. And I would also like to point out, I think there was some stress about the properties on the south side being much smaller homes. But if you look at the actual flats, or, the actual properties, most of those lots are 1 acre lots, 4 times the size of this proposed development. But I think everyone else kind of covered everything. But what I wanted to talk about, I wanted to speak on behalf of the future owners, not only within this subdivision, but also in any subdivisions that you're currently considering for approval. By including the private infrastructure components as the roadways and stormwater, you're essentially transferring expensive repair and maintenance costs onto the future taxpayers and owners of those properties. I completely understand the homeowners association. However, there's not adequate plans, and many of them, for long-term repairs and maintenance. The future owners in this neighborhood will not only have inadequate parking because of their small lots, but the subpar infrastructure doesn't meet the minimum county standards. I also had a note, by transferring the infrastructure to private corporations, you're also burdening future owners with additional liabilities to private corporations whose property assessments aren't tax deductible. I speak from experience in my private neighborhood that when one neighbor has company over, their cars overflow into the private street and emergency vehicles can't pass. It doesn't matter what the rules are, the police can't do anything about it because it's private property. I just hope that you consider some of these issues, when reviewing these plats. In my situation, we had issues with the stormwater drainage, and our professional management company refused to address the issue. I went to many Walton County meetings and was told 10 times over it's private property, that it was my fault. I just don't agree with property owners having to hire attorneys to protect our properties and our homes from flooding due to negligent maintenance of homeowners associations or developers or whoever is controlling this property. I just wanted to make you aware of the issues, to hopefully encourage possibly the developer to include capital reserve and maintenance plans as part of the development order so that you can better protect citizens from going through the same experiences that I have. Unlike property taxes, HOA dues have no cap. There's Floridians across the state right now facing sudden large special assessments because of decades of poor planning in these private neighborhoods. If a homeowner can't pay a special assessment, the developers can place a lien, not only a lien, but actually foreclose on the property. I hope that you would require the full HOA document in order to approve this subdivision, so that we could hopefully, as a county, just take steps to preserve constitutional rights of property homeowners, because I don't think anyone should have their property taken from them due to poor maintenance of these subdivisions. I also wanted to mention as far as the plat fees, I do understand that Walton County does allow an option to pay for the plat fees. I do have concerns in regards to the expenditure of those fees, as Florida statute clearly makes it very clear that plat fees must have rational nexus with the need for capital facilities and improvements. And as you may know, a lot of the District 5 plat fees have been transferred to recreational areas in Defuniak Springs. And I do believe that is a misappropriation of the plat fees, but I understand that's not why we're here today. Before I go, I just wanted to mention my friends, Mr. and Mrs. Thurman. They live at 324 Walton Way on the bay, and I share their concerns regarding the bridge as well, as many other neighbors have mentioned today. The guardrail on the bridge it's uneven. The asphalt is already caving in. And I'm concerned if this infrastructure isn't brought to better standards, that it could cut off all of these homes from emergency vehicles. I remember Cross Creek in Santa Rosa Beach, there was a time that a bridge had collapsed and the homeowners were cut off from emergency vehicles. And I would hate to see something like that happen, or someone's home burned down because a fire truck can't safely make it to their homes. I know you're not responsible for the bridges, but it's a fact. We need better infrastructure to support the development that's being proposed. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah. Just one comment. The bridge, as I understand it, is not in danger of failing. It merely does not meet today's standards and has been programmed for replacement. At no time would we approve a development with infrastructure that would provide access to the development that would be in a life-threatening condition. We just wouldn't do that. And we're not going to do it in this particular case either. Do we have anyone else attending by Zoom that would like to comment on this particular project? Seeing no other hands up, either in the room or on Zoom, we're going to provide the opportunity for the developer to answer the questions that have been asked.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate the comments, and I'll be brief. You know, compatibility is not the cost or the market value of the house. Okay, so there are all kinds of different ways to achieve compatibility as well. So I think the comment regarding $1 million homes versus $500,000 homes is irrelevant, to be honest with you. I checked while I was sitting here on the values recorded in the property appraiser site, and they're in the 3s and 4s on the south side, not on the north side where they're bayfront. Recreation, we'll buy it out. We have this, just the common space is 0.29 acres. I mean, sorry, it's over half an acre. We're required 5% of the 5.82, which is 0.29 acres, not 2.9 acres. So, but let's just put on record that we're going to buy it out so that there's no question about what we're doing with the recreation area.
Right, and I think just to clarify even further, we call the stormwater area common space because there was a code provision that wouldn't allow, or previously allowed, stormwater to be on lots within subdivisions. So we require the stormwater pond to be labeled as common space, so that's not in a lot of the subdivision or on a lot of the subdivision.
And that's our understanding as well. And we are now, I've also done developments where we utilize this common space in 2 uses, whether it be retention. We can be creative about things, and we can build gazebos over it with walkways. We can do that through the wetlands. Those are permittable activities. But for the purposes of this meeting and for clarification, we're going to buy it out so that there's no question about what our intentions are in the future. Okay. As far as the stormwater goes, about 65% of the house and road area are captured in the main stormwater pond that is directed to the road through the use of gutters and downspouts, and that is caught in catch basins or in the inverted crown of the road, which takes it to a discharge location for treatment and attenuation. The remainder of the site is treated through vegetated natural buffers that gets filtered through and to the wetlands. That wetlands does not pop off across the street. That wetlands connects to Emerald Bay, the golf course, and a larger wetland area that ends up popping off a half mile or so to the east at the DOT drainage outlet. So the questions about this directly, in fact, the grading itself, if you look at the site plan, it actually falls from north to south, which makes sense because wetlands are usually downhill. So we're not falling towards the bay, we're falling away from the bay. Even though our stormwater, a portion of it is collected on the northern and western side of the property, it is collected in a inverted crown of a road and discharged to the stormwater system. It doesn't go across the street. The 2 lots, 7 and 8, will have stem wall construction because of the lot gradation. And the remainder of that grade that does not, or remainder of the lots that do not get collected into the stormwater system, the dry retention system, are going to be treated in vegetative natural buffers. This has been done many, many, many times. So The comment about this directly discharging to the bay, or at least the connotation that it is, in my opinion, is incorrect. This actually goes through a major wetland system before it gets to the bay. As far as the bridge goes, we've heard this many, many years. Eventually, it will get widened, fixed, etc. The HOA will maintain and operate the private road. We show on our plan for the cul-de-sac question, very specifically, 1,031 square feet dedicated easement for the cul-de-sac. We're giving the county an easement to put their cul-de-sac on our property. Okay, so this is not going unnoticed. We do not encroach on Mr. Osborne's property with the cul-de-sac. The bottom of our pond is 8, not 5 or 6. I agree with Mr. King. We had a discussion during our initial meeting about Bayview Estates, and unfortunately, Blake is not part of this company anymore. However, if they want to call me or they want to call the county about code complaints, that's obviously up to them. They can call the owner. I mean, their contact information is online, or they can call me. It's not an issue. But I tend to agree with them that if it's in disarray and disrepair, then they should present it in a positive way, go out there and bush hog it and maintain it until they start building homes. Sidewalks are always an issue along Walton Way. The county started a study on that, or at least allotted the monies to start the study on the sidewalk issue. So I think that's going to hopefully be addressed in the next, I would say 2 years. Housing values, recreation we got, private, okay. So those are my comments, and, if there needs to be clarification, the private drive is on there, it's noted on there. If we need to say that it will be maintained by an HOA, we will, but the county will not allow us to plat these lots without the HOA being recorded. And that being one of their requirements is stormwater management and operation, and that's a state requirement as well, and the road management, so.
One of the things that typically Public Works requires anytime there's a public roadway adjacent to a construction site is some documentation of the condition of the roadway before construction starts, so that there can be some metric assigned to any wear and tear beyond normal wear and tear that might be related to the construction site. And that will be part of the pre-construction conference discussion. Mr. McDowell, yes. Could you come to the podium so we could capture your comments on the record, please?
I'm Jim McDowell. About the water table being at about 8, elevation of about 8 feet. They claim it's at 5 feet, and the pond itself bottom is at 6 feet. There's no comment on that.
I did comment on that. I said that the bottom of our retention pond was 8. It makes sense that the water table would be slightly higher than the wetlands. The wetlands elevation is around 4. So even at 2 feet higher, that's 6, which makes a lot of sense. If we were at 7 or whatever it was when they took the boring, which is obviously on the property, there is an elevation 7, and I'll have to look back and see exactly where it was, but this makes a lot of sense that our bottom of our pond would be at 8. The top is at 9, and the wetlands is at elevation 4. So, we may be within a couple inches, but we did whatever the Southern Earth Sciences promoted in their recommendations and in their investigation for this property. So, but the bottom of the retention pond is 8, not 6.
That's right. And then for the drawdown analysis, of course, we use a factor of safety of 2 as well from the field measured values. And that typically, that's something we've done for a while, and that adds a sense of assurity to the design.
Well, the other thing is that we have fairly good soils in the uplands, which means to me that the water table probably isn't that high unless it's perched on whatever organics are very low, which would probably start around 4. So, what we did was according to the geotech's recommendations.
Anyone else wish to make a comment?
Are we done with the public comments?
Yeah, we'll officially close public hearing.
So, you've heard both sides. I'd like to make a recommendation, motion to the committee.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this project. Move it to the development order stage.
Subject to the 5% recreation fee.
Correct. And that will be collected at the time of plating.
Fill in the covenants and restrictions related
Yes.
to the
Yes, sir.
operation of and maintenance.
Yes, sir. And that'll also be at the time of the plating.
We have a motion at the dais.
Mac, I'll make a motion that we approve the project as stated.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion at the dais? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise?
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this motion is carried. This item has been recommended for approval, subject to the conditions in the staff report and the additional conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have anyone else waiting outside for additional items? Yeah, why don't we take about a 5-minute break
Yes, sir.
before we move to the next item?
This has, the water stormwater plan has to go to DEP.
We'll bring the Walton County Technical Review Committee meeting back to order. We're on agenda item number 8, the Path of Grace Center. This minor development's been reviewed by Bob. If you could introduce it for us, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is a minor development order application submitted by Jenkins Engineering on behalf of Path of Grace Incorporated, requesting to construct the 12,000 plus or minus square foot congregate care facility for women and associated infrastructure on approximately 9.9 plus or minus acres. The project has a future land use of public facilities and institutional and a zoning district of institutional. And it is located from Highway 98, turn north on South Church Street, travel approximately 1 mile. And the parcel was on the west side of South Church Street. And it is identified by the parcel number in your staff report. Mr. Chair, I don't have many outstanding comments. What I do have can be easily addressed, I believe, by the engineering company. It meets the comprehensive plan. If you have any questions for me, I'll gladly answer them. If not, I'd like to turn it over to the applicant, and can I please enter the staff report in the record?
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jamie Eubanks, EUBANKS with Jenkins Engineering. As Bob said, we didn't have any planning comments. I've already spoken with Bill about the one engineering comment. I don't have any questions this morning.
Traffic yet?
Yeah, typically I don't issue the traffic letter until all comments have been addressed, but I have started putting a comment in there that says there are no transportation comments currently. So we do have the report. don't believe this one will require any money. Where is it? Yeah. I forget what the counts were, but they were minimal, and those roadway segments typically have capacity. We're on Path of Grace. Oh, the buildings, are they coming from? Sorry, no, I was like, the trips? I don't think they're coming from there. Sorry. Katrina Cottages, possibly.
This is minor development. We'll take a moment to open public hearing. Anyone in the audience or attending by Zoom wish to make a comment on this particular application? We have one hand up. Julie, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Are you Julie?
I'm actually her husband, John.
Okay.
Sorry if my photo doesn't match up with my voice.
Could you identify yourself and spell your last name for the clerk, please?
It's John Stevenson, spelled Stephenson.
Yes, sir. Did you have some comments on this application?
Yeah, I'm also, so, there's no big, powerful HOA or anything up there, but just had some questions and concerns about potential property value impacts as well for that region. The zones all around that were residential conservation for 1 unit every 2.5 acres. And then, this has recently been rezoned to institutional, which the neighboring institutional zones around there were churches, fire departments, mosquito control. But from what it looks like, now we, fully support the mission of Path of Grace, but it seems like these are designed to be houses for graduates of their program and single mothers who are reuniting with their families. I'm just, worried that essentially putting a big conglomerate of small houses on there. It looks like there's 13 of them for, in that first 2.5 acres. And then at the south end of the lot there, the road continues on like it's got potential future implications to expand further to the west of the lot. The property value is currently over on the to the west there along the water, and then up around are all around here about $500,000. The land alone around 200. So just kind of worried about that, and then potential for we don't know anything about their program really, and that's bad on us for not having done a little bit more research on their particular program. But we don't know anything about the folks who are coming through. It seems like this is a more permanent thing, and if it's a more permanent thing, then why are we rezoning an area that was supposed to be residential with 1 unit every 2.5 acres when they could be purchasing property in areas that are zoned as residential, where they can have more homes closer together. And then, we also don't know a whole lot about the folks who are coming through. If it is supposed to be rotational, we're just worried about safety as well. I'm not certain if a lot of the folks who are going to be living here have been to prison or not, or their families and children that are reuniting with them are obviously coming from homes with abuse in them. And then now that is potentially spreading throughout that area. What kind of accountability programs do they have if there is relapses or anything like that? And, we wish them the best with their mission and everything. But we just had some concerns on property value, impact, and safety in the area.
Thanks, sir. Would the applicant like to address those concerns?
I'm probably not the expert to speak on property values, but in terms of the use and the mission of the program, he is correct. So this is essentially the graduate step, if you will, from the first phase of Path of Grace. So this is more of transitional into the next role. So they go from Path of Grace Center to this temporary housing where they're given a little bit more freedom but still have the support. This is to help get them on the feet to go, to the next level, which is obviously out of the program entirely and on their own. They do have internal missions, requirements. I can't speak directly to their vetting, obviously, but I do know they do have those in place.
Can you speak to the stub out and the question about future development?
So there is nothing at this time, even potentially planned. We left it there, obviously, if there is something in the future, made a good spot for the dumpster so that the truck didn't have to go into the area and back around and turn around. But no, we did leave it in case there is anything down the road.
To provide for fire truck turnaround?
It does provide for a fire truck turnaround, and then we worked with Sammy last week to provide an additional turnaround, some striping of the actual parking area. That'll be shown on our resubmittal today. But yes.
Any plan for a perimeter fence or anything like that?
No, not at this time. We left all the buffers natural with any supplemental planning that was needed, and tried to stay a good bit off of, I don't know if you can see it on the site plan, but tried to stay a good bit away from the property lines, actually. We're about 40 feet off that northern property line.
The wetland areas that are shown here are the ones that are actually delineated on the ground compared to our national wetland inventory map, which looks like it's much more extensive.
These were actually delineated, and we're not impacting them.
Have any other questions? Anyone else wish to make a comment or ask a question about this particular development? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve pending successful addressing of outstanding comments and receiving comments from the fire department before moving to the development order stage.
We have a recommended motion. We have a motion at the dais.
Motion.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Seeing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward subject to resubmittal. That moves us to item number 9, the North Church Street rezoning. It's also been reviewed by Bob Baranti. Bob, if you can introduce it for us.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is a rezoning application, as you stated, submitted by Travis Dickerson, requesting approval to change the zoning from conservation residential 1 unit per 2.5 to 2 units per acre with a future land use that will remain to stay of conservation residential. It's on plus or minus 4 acres. The project is located from the intersection of US Highway 98 and County Road 393 North, left on Nursery Road, then left on North Church Street. And it's identified by the parcel number in your staff report. The applicant's wish is to provide additional lots to his family members. Obviously, this is not allowable in the current zoning district and would require this zone change. It has a single-family residence located on the lot. This would meet the comprehensive plan and the land development code. And this is its first step moving through the hearing process. Staff has no comments on outstanding comments. The applicant is here. Would you have any questions for me before I turn it over to the applicant? Could I enter the staff report in the record, please? And I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Good morning.
Good morning.
State your name and
Travis Dickerson,
last name for the record.
Dickerson.
Sure. Comments?
Just looking to, I'm building my personal house there, and I'd like to split off to give each one of my children a lot on the property.
This application will get public hearings at the Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. Won't open a public hearing, but we will take the opportunity to invite any technical questions or comments from any member of the audience. Mr. Fakar. Yes, if you come to the podium and state your name for the record and spell your last name, please.
Alan Ficarra, Ficarra. I previously owned the 4 acres adjacent to his, and I sold it to a close family friend who's been living on that lot for the last 10 years. And I'm in the process of building her, she's been living in it on her trailer, and I'm in the process of building her a permanent home right now. Travis and I, there seems to have been some miscommunication, but Travis and I were actually speaking together outside prior to us in this meeting. All right. And there seemed to have been a lot of some miscommunication. And the fact that, number one, the north end, his lot and the lot right next to it, just to the east, are 2 4-acre parcels that were originally, that are part of 2 20-acre parcels. And at some point in time prior to the comp plan being approved, somebody came in there and took those 2 10-acre parcels and made 5 4-acre lots. Now, those 2 10-acre parcels were part of the Santa Rosa Plantation. And as part of the Santa Rosa Plantation that was done in the early 1900s, there were roads that were marked and dedicated. And the northern 10 acres that was split had a road going along the northern property line. But the property just to the north of it was not part of the plantation. So that when you had roads that had a 66-foot wide easement, if it was not part of the plantation, that easement did not exist. But the other 33 feet that were on that part of that 10-acre parcel would have had that 33-foot easement. And in actuality, all 4 lots that are behind Travis's would have to access their property through that 33-foot wide easement. And I had previously in the past, through the county, gotten permission to open up that 33 feet to gain access to that second 4-acre parcel. There seemed to be some communication, miscommunication between him and her, because there was talk about him putting a gate up across that 33 feet easement to prevent her access to her property. And you back me up on this.
So exactly how it happened was she came to me. She obviously, you can see she split a piece off of her lot in the back, and she wanted me to sign over a portion of my property. And she explained to me that it was an easement. And I said, well, if it's an already recorded easement, I shouldn't have to sign over anything. I came to Walton County to the planning department and asked them what I should do. They said, absolutely do not sign over an easement. There's already a 15-foot easement on the south side of the property on the recorded maps. So I didn't.
Wait a minute, we gave you legal advice?
Yes. I don't remember her name.
Because we don't give you legal advice.
Okay.
We're not lawyers.
Okay.
We're not entitled to give you legal advice in this state. The Bar Association helps us keep that straight.
Okay.
What you may have received was an indication that there's an alternate access.
Yes, sir.
And providing the additional easement would not be required to prevent her from being landlocked. That would not be.
And I believe she did say she recommended
additional
not.
public information.
Yes.
But there's a government patent easement across the top for 33 feet.
Part of the original Santa Rosa plantation. Okay. And whoever did that, subdivided that 20 acres into 5 lots, didn't do their research, and as a condition of the fact of trying to do that subdivide into these 4-acre lots, they threw a 15-foot wide easement along the southern boundary that is all wetlands. And a 15-foot wide access with wetlands, there's no way that you're going to be able to put a road through there, fill the wetlands, put a road, and do stormwater for that road. It's going to be impossible. That 15-foot easement was only put in there to make it look like they weren't being landlocked, because they had not done the research to identify the fact that there was already 33-foot wide easement across the north part.
Okay.
Okay. At this point in time, I think we've come up with an agreement.
I am not opposed to the 33-foot easement on the north side, as long as it goes all the way through the 5 properties. So I have a standing offer, if you can look, sir. So mine is on the road frontage, and then there are 4 more 4-acre parcels behind me. So 2 of the 4-acre parcels behind Deborah, which is the lot that Alan had previously owned, I have a standing offer on. My fear is that if I give an easement on the north side, that whoever she sells that lot to, that she split off the 1-acre lot, will not return the favor if I in fact buy the parcels in the back. And I will have to go on the south side and put a road all the way back through on the wetlands.
And if there is a 33-foot easement across the top, I mean, public interest in that.
Sure.
By and large, the county commission decides what gets done with that easement, what use can go there.
Yes, sir, but nobody can find the easement. When I went to the county to look, nobody could find it on record of the 33-foot easement. It's on a survey, but it was never recorded.
It was not recorded as part of public records because it was part of the Santa Rosa plantation. All right, and as part of the Santa Rosa, back in the early 1900s, this stuff was not recorded as far as the easements, but this plat was recorded, and the easements are on this plat.
Plat?
Huh?
Is it dimensioned on the plat?
Well, that was another thing. At the time this was done, Santa Rosa Plantation, the dimensions of the width of those easements was never established. And there were some other court cases and other things that went through back in the later on, and I think in the 60s or 70s or whatever, that they finally decided and everybody agreed that all of these easements within the plantation were going to be 66 feet wide. Okay? That's public record. So since this easement only occurred on one half, because the other part wasn't part of Santa Rosa Plantation,
You only have the 33.
you only have 33 feet.
And sir, if I may, I would rather have the 33-foot easement on the north as long as we could negate the 15-foot easement on the south.
Well, I mean.
And I don't know how we do
The
this.
33-foot easement on the north, if that exists, there's a public interest in that.
Sure.
The 15-foot easement on the south that you described sounds like that was an easement granted between two parties as part of a sale.
It was part of the lot split that was done. And I'm not sure exactly when those 4 acres was occurred, but it was before the comp plan.
Okay, so it wasn't a lot split that the county processed.
Yeah. Yeah,
That would have been a private division of land with an easement added to the deed.
Right.
Is that your understanding?
Yeah, because those 4 acres were actually formed prior to the comp plan.
I think if we address the 33-foot easement and confirm that that is there, you're suggesting that the other easement's not necessary to provide access?
It's not necessary and it's not even usable.
And I would think that that easement could be dissolved between the parties.
And we would
And
have to.
and I'm good with that.
We would have to
Sure.
get the other 3 lots back behind to.
Not giving you legal advice.
I understand. Yes, sir.
And
Appropriate Florida licensed attorney.
yeah, we both understand that the other 3 lots back behind the first 2 would have to agree to dissolve that 15-acre easement, 15-foot wide easement. And that's something we have to contact the other property owners about. What we want to establish right now and become part of public record is the fact that he understands and agrees that that 33-foot wide easement exists along the northern boundary of all 5 of those lots.
And I'm not sure. I mean, I'm willing to, as long as it goes all the way through, then yes. So my only concern is I sign over the easement. First of all, if it's already an easement, I don't think I should have to sign anything over. It should just already be there. But maybe not. I don't know exactly how it works.
And
it's confusing.
Can't give you legal advice.
Well, here's where the
I don't want to buy the 2 4-acre tracts behind Deborah if whoever she sells that 1-acre lot to is not going to acknowledge the 33-foot easement.
And I don't want to speak for the surveyor, but the legal description describes this as being a portion of the Santa Rosa Plantation being that was recorded in Plat Book 2, page 4, and I don't know if that's what he has there. But if that's the case, that would be where the surveyor got the easement that he depicted on your survey.
Sure.
And outside of legal, I would say the surveyor can confirm the easement,
The easement is there.
being recorded. And that's what I would recommend doing to verify. But typically, when you reference that plat book, it goes back to that, no matter what date it is. And if it's shown on there, then it's a recorded easement.
Well, he was requesting that she pay him $10,000 to get that easement across that north part of his property.
And that's not exactly true. I was requesting she either acknowledges that the easement goes all the way through her property. She was not willing to acknowledge that the easement went through her property, only that it went through my property. And if she was willing to acknowledge it went through her property, I was all fine acknowledging it, and she was not willing to do that. So I said, then fine, when I do the lot splits, I will split that off, that 33 foot, and sell it to you. I don't understand how the 33-foot easement would just go across my property and not continue down. That's where my confusion is.
All the way down.
I think it would also,
Okay.
but that's subject to verification
Sure.
by title search and survey.
And nobody's been able to find that. That's the, kind of the issue that.
Oh, that may be where to look.
Sure.
Apparently the surveyor found it on your lot. So as Bill suggested, that's where he's getting that, from the plat book too.
Yes.
Typically, the county doesn't vacate any of these easements, and if we did, at some point, that should be recorded as well, if we vacated that portion across her lot, but typically,
Yes.
we don't vacate right away.
A resolution indicating the county commission voted to vacate that. That exists.
Okay.
And lots of these easements, folks don't know that they have that encumbrance. I mean, there's circumstances where people just aren't aware of the government banned easement. How they acquired their property, they may not have had title search at the time. Sometimes people pay cash for things and skip that little step that costs extra money because I know what I'm buying and I can afford it.
And that road across the 33 feet was in place before he bought the property. And he actually acknowledged it, how would I say, indirectly, by putting a fence across that part of the 33 feet. So I just want to, as part of what he's looking to try to do, get public recognition and that the fact that he agrees, and I'll get Deborah to agree, that 33 feet extends across all 5 lots. And so that right now, she did a lot split on the north part of her property, took an acre out. She'd like to be able to sell that lot. She can't sell it until this is acknowledged in public record that easement exists.
That lot was created before 96 or after 96?
Which one?
Acre lot.
It was just recently done.
Lot split.
It was just recently done. And she was looking to sell that acre so that she has some funds to build a permanent house and get all out of her trailer.
I would like the 33-foot easement on the north side to, be all the way down through. But not to just go through my property and then end at the end of my property and not continue.
Well, and I understand and appreciate what your desire is. If the 33-foot easement exists and has not been abandoned,
And it's there.
Typically, that wouldn't just traverse one portion of one of these Santa Rosa plantation lots. It would run the entire length of that original lot.
Yes, sir. And the only, when I became concerned, so I have, one of my good friends was gonna buy the 1 acre lot that she split off. And when she sent the survey to him, the easement did not show on his property. And I don't know if that's a convenient, it could have just been a mistake by the surveyor, or I have no idea.
Surveyor probably did not know that was an issue, and I'm sure did not.
Sure. I've already,
We're probably gonna go back and take a look at that lot split to make sure that 33-foot easement was considered in that, as it should have been before we lot split.
Well, easements on the Santa Rosa plantation.
If it hasn't been abandoned, I'm pretty comfortable that Alan is correct.
Sure.
That runs the entire length of that original lot.
Okay.
Subject to verification, of course, but I mean, I know about that I would agree with that.
All right.
Now, at some point in time, some portion of it could have been abandoned by the county commission, but there'd be a public record of that abandonment resolution in the clerk's records.
Yeah, I would be better off myself to, if we could get all ready together and negate the 15-foot easement that doesn't need to be there, and then just keep the 33-foot, makes more sense. You can't do anything with the 15-foot in the wetlands anyway.
Well, the 15 feet is not an issue for the county to arbitrate.
But that's on public record on my deed.
But yes, but that's a private easement, not one that the county was a party to.
Okay, all right.
That's something we had to get the other.
Yeah, we just have to.
We have to get the other property behind it to agree on.
Sounds like we all want the same thing.
Sounds like everything can.
And I believe that we
get
do.
to the point that everybody wants
Yes.
it to get to. It's just a matter of getting the parties together and
Exactly.
and confirming things. With regard to the rezoning, I don't know that the easement issue
Doesn't.
material to this particular application, unless you.
I wanted to take this opportunity to get this out in the public,
Okay.
on public record, so that when he does submit for a lot split for his children, and by the way, I thought a lot split for your children, you're only allowed to do one split. Has that changed?
You can only split the lot one time for a normal lot split. For a family lot split, if I got 100 kids, I can cut it 100 times. I just can't cut it to the same child more than once. Unfortunately, I don't have 100 kids.
And there are restrictions with that the child has to own it for a certain period of time, right?
We're typically looking for them to hold it for a year.
Yeah, yeah.
Provide them a homestead. State law has changed, and that is not a requirement. But that is the intent, that the lot split's approved upon to be a homestead, wherever it's being processed. And that is what we expect.
We're not,
Yes, sir.
we're not objecting to the change of the rezoning. We're just using, we want this opportunity to get this back into the public eye, and that when he does his split, that the county see if we are all agree and have resolved this issue.
And honestly, I benefit from what they want more, just as much as they do, because if I buy the 8 acres behind, this gives me access to that. It doesn't really affect me on, the rezoning of the lot split.
Sounds like everybody
We do.
can get what they're looking for and.
Exactly.
And
Yes, sir.
out.
And then also, and I just wanted to bring up one
Comments
thing, and I
are on
don't
the
even know
record, and they're also on the survey for this particular
if it matters.
application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
And then also, what I'm trying to rezone to for the 2 units per acre, the 4 acres behind me that Mr. Ficara used to own, that is already zoned as that. That has already been rezoned as the 2 units per acre. I think on page 6 it says it's not, but it actually is.
Not reflected on the map, I don't think,
Sure. Yeah, it should be a different shade of green.
unless it's conservation residential.
It is, yes, sir. Conservation residential 2-to-1. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. The whole reason, sir, is for the rezoning is not so much for development, is to be able to use 40% of the land instead of 20% when my kids build their house.
Bob, if you can verify that on page 6. Map does.
Alan, didn't you have that rezoned?
I believe I did.
Yes.
At one point in time, I had planned on taking that 4 acres. But then I abandoned that.
but on the county map, it is,
Okay, any other comments?
no, sir.
All the information we just discussed on the public record, do we have a recommended motion?
Mr. Chair, I recommend a motion to approve this application for rezoning and move it to the appropriate planning commission meeting for its public hearing and to be considered there.
Thank you, Bob. Do we have a motion at the dais?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? None, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, the motion is carried. This item will be scheduled for the next available planning commission meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
We'll move us to item number 10, the Meridian roof antennas. Minor development reviewed by Renee Bradley. Renee, if you can introduce this one for us.
Yes, sir. This is a minor development order application submitted by Jerry Skipper on behalf of Meridian Condominium Association, requesting to install rooftop antennas for improvement of wireless service. Project has a future land use of residential and zoning of residential preservation, and is located from the intersection of County Highway 395 South and East County Highway 38, west of 395 and north of 38. It's identified by the parcel ID in your packet. This was mostly a staff review, sir, and the requirement for this to be a minor development order is under our tall structures ordinance, and basically because it is slightly increasing the height of the building. We're going from 55'11" to 62'10" with the top of the antennas. There's also an equipment area that's being placed on top of the rooftop. Staff has one comment I didn't see where they had provided us the FAA, the FCC regulations, which is required when it exceeds the height of the building in which it's going on. Other than that, sir, there is no outstanding comments, and
How about the no hazard to aviation statement?
yes, sir. So I know Eglin didn't have any comment on this, so they did respond. Okay.
The applicant, Jerry? Jerry, can you hear us? Star 9 to speak. Jerry, can you hear us? I don't think we can hear Jerry. Outstanding comment is the no hazard letter.
Open it up for public comment, being it's minor.
Yes, this is a minor development, so we will take the opportunity to open meeting to a public hearing. Anyone in the audience or dialed in by Zoom that wishes to make a comment on this particular application? Meridian roof antennas. Seeing none in the audience and seeing none on Zoom, we'll close the public hearing and we'll entertain a motion.
Staff would recommend, sir, that we move this forward to the development order stage once we've received the letter that we need. And additionally, I'd like to enter the staff report into the record. I believe I forgot that.
Thank you, and so entered. We have a recommended motion. We have motion at the dais. motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Seeing none, this item is approved to move forward to development order subject to the condition. Going to take just a moment to check out a technical difficulty.
Your call cannot be completed at this time. Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by enter your participant ID. You have joined the meeting as an attendee and will be muted throughout the meeting. You are unmuted.
Sorry. Jerry, can you hear us yet?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, very good. Did you have any comments on your application? I think we had one outstanding issue, and that would be the no hazard aviation letter.
No, I didn't have any comments, just happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Jerry, could you hear the earlier part of the meeting?
I could not. No,
We've moved your project forward to development order subject to receipt of the no hazard to aviation letter.
okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. We'll move to item number 11, the Aslan Waste Services Major Development, reviewed by Renee Bradley. If you can introduce it for us.
This is a major development order application submitted by Jenkins Engineering on behalf of Aslan Waste Services LLC and LMJ Farms LLC, requesting to add 177 plus or minus acre borrow pit mining operation adjacent to the existing Aslan borrow pit for a total of 330 acres. This has a future land use of industrial and extractive uses and zoning of extractive uses. Staff has quite a few questions on this. We have been trying to work through exactly what we're trying to accomplish on this project. After talking to the owner, it's my understanding we're going to do some slight amending to the existing pit as well as add some additional borrow area. So the comments are a lot, really straightforward comments. I think they would be easy to be responded to. but I would like to see a response to each one of these comments, at least in writing. And there's a couple of things that I was concerned about that are different from our normal code, like wetland buffers on a mining operation are required to be 50 feet instead of 25. And so there's some things on the site plan additionally that also has to be addressed. Other than that, we did have a few engineering comments about access. I don't believe I had received North Walton Fire comments as the time the report was written. That's about it from staff. Glad to turn it over to applicant or answer any questions for you. And also like to enter staff report into the record, please.
Thank you, Renee. So entered.
Jamie Eubanks, CUBA NKS with Jenkins Engineering. We were able to get a hold of the staff report last week, and I believe we've addressed everything. We're waiting on just getting the survey back with the revised flood zone information. But I don't believe I had any questions. A lot of notes will be added to the plans, things like that. But obviously no development for this particular set of drawings. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Specific.
Of the committee. Any members on Zoom have any questions for this applicant? None.
Oh, Mac, I did have one question I wrote down. Just more of a clarification. There is, in the new mining code, there is one discussion point about a fence. That was one of the comments from Renee. It does allow in there, I don't remember if it says a director or the staff, whatever, for a fence not to be required. I believe it says if there's natural buffers or things like that. So I was looking for a little clarity on that for this particular, especially on the new site where they're already moving dirt, but going to be officially removing dirt. To the north, we have about 50 acres that are wetlands that aren't being touched. To the south, we have about a 300-foot strand of dense forest that's not being removed. I didn't know if those could serve in place of the buffer. Or, excuse me, the fence. My apologies.
I have no issue with that, sir, as long as we can provide. I think the whole idea was the safety of the pit.
Right.
Keeping children out. But I think the areas where they can't show us some kind of adequate buffer, then they would need to do some fencing. I know with Aslan, the original project, it was a very big deal for the neighbors out there that there was a fence up because there's a lot of family on Rock Hill Road. And so that's my biggest concern is how the public would feel about it not being fenced. So I think it's something that we would really need to take into consideration by looking at it from, the whole boundary of the project to whether we could do that or not. So it's something we need to work together on to make sure that you're comfortable with us doing this.
Well, the county's absolutely concerned about public safety and safety of adjacent neighbors. Why don't we take a look at the fence issue prior to Planning Commission? This is major development.
Yes. And that's fine. We're just looking for clarification either way.
So that we've got a recommendation going into Planning Commission on that particular. I'm open to looking at, we've got, large acreage adjacent that provides a buffer.
Okay.
That area might not need a fence. Other areas might.
Sure.
Get together and take a look at that and see what we can recommend. Project will get public hearings at Planning Commission and County Commission once it gets to that stage. Any member of the audience or anyone on Zoom wishing to ask a technical question about this application this morning? Seeing none in the audience, seeing none on Zoom, we'll move forward with the recommended motion.
The recommended motion, sir, would be to move forward to Planning Commission once all comments have been satisfied.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Have a motion and a second to recommend approval and move to the Planning Commission, subject to satisfaction of all outstanding comments. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item, this motion is approved to conditionally move forward to Planning Commission. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jamie. That'll move us to item number 12, the Watercolor Electric Cart Storage. Minor development review by Renee Bradley. Renee, if you could briefly introduce it for us.
This is a minor development order application submitted by Baker Engineers on behalf of Watercolor Homeowners Association, requesting to add a golf cart storage area and charging station on 0.74 acres with a future land use of mixed use and zoning of coastal center. The project's located from US Highway 98 and County Highway 395. You turn right and it's 2.5 miles to the crossing way in Pine Grove Circle, and the property's on the left and is identified by the parcel ID in your packet. Staff has very minor comments on this project. I believe there was a couple of comments by engineering, and I'd like to enter the staff report into the record and turn it over to the applicant unless you have any questions of me.
Thank you, Renee, and staff report is entered. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Michelle Baker from Baker Engineers. As Renee stated, this is accessory use to the Watercolor Owners Association, and some of the outstanding comments from engineering were just how this was going to work basically with the drop-off and pickup. There is no kiosk there. There's staff that are there. You do your rental online, and it's for Watercolor residents only and their guests. So you set up a time online. They have pickup in the afternoon and drop-off in the mornings. So the staff knows they're coming. They have their iPad on the site, and there's no parking allowed on the site. The charge stations shown there just in case they're needed, because the carts are supposed to be dropped back off fully charged, but just in case they aren't. So if you have, and it's right next, adjacent to the Owners Association building with their parking lot. So if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Questions? I think mine have been answered. Anyone in the audience or dialed in by Zoom that wish to ask a technical question about this particular application? Actually, this is minor development, so we will formally open a public hearing. Anybody in the audience or dialed in by Zoom that wishes to make a comment on this application? Seeing none in the room and seeing none on Zoom, we'll close the public hearing and we'll move to recommend a motion.
The recommended motion, sir, would be move it forward to the development order. It's my understanding that Michelle's already resubmitted the project online, so I need to get that submitted to everybody else today. But we'd like to move it forward to the development order stage.
Okay, we had a recommended motion. Do we have a motion that dies? Have a motion and a second?
Yeah.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is approved to move forward to development order. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Michelle. This brings us to item number 13, the Waters Ministries Women Center. This is a minor development review by Stephen Schoen. Stephen, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, sir. Good morning. This is a minor development order application submitted by Dean Burgess, PE, with Emerald Coast Associates on behalf of Stillwater Ministries, requesting approval to construct a group home facility on 38.91 plus or minus acres with future land use and zoning designations of large-scale agriculture. The subject property is located at the end of Holly Tree Lane on the northeastern side of the roadway,
traveling from the intersection of Highway 90 and High Note Road. Travel north 5.8 plus or minus miles, turn left onto Richardson Road, continue 0.2 plus or minus miles, and turn right onto Holly Tree Lane. The property is identified by the parcel number in the staff report, which I would like to enter into the record. There are a number of outstanding comments that remain. I have not had the opportunity to speak with the agent, but I would like to say a couple of things relating to planning staff's comments. One in particular is that this use is being considered a civic use, which is allowed by right in the zoning district, and staff is of the opinion that the use, based on the nature of the use, that an uncomplimentary land use buffer be added to the site plan. It's not required, but I think it would serve both the project as well as the surrounding property owners in a positive way. I do believe the applicant is sitting right behind me, and I will open up to him if you have no further questions for me.
Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
Good morning, Dean Burgess with Emerald Coast Associates. We have gone over staff's comments. We're in the process of responding. Only question that I had was regarding the buffer that Mr. Schoen mentioned. We've located the development well inside of the limits of the property. I'm assuming the buffer width that he's asking for can be accommodated on our existing site plan. What size buffer were you anticipating?
The buffer would be for the vacant lands in 5.01.07. I believe, I think it's a 20. And in staff's mind, that would be accomplished through existing natural vegetation on site.
Okay. We certainly have no objection to the buffer. I anticipate that we'll be able to respond to the comments promptly, and we'd ask that it be moved on to development order stage upon receipt of acceptable response to comments.
Thanks, sir. This is a minor development. We're going to take the opportunity to open a public hearing. Anyone in the audience or dialed in by Zoom wishing to make a comment on this particular application, the Waters Ministries Women Center? Yes, sir. If you come to the podium and state your name and spell your last name for the record, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Mark Sidebottom, Sidebottom, and I own 20 acres adjacent to that property on the south side. And it might be 20 acres, but there's only just a little bit of land they can build on because there's 3 streams. And it's like, I think it's 200 feet and maybe 250 at the most. And there's everybody else around there, they all hunt and all that stuff too. There's always guns and stuff going off. I ain't sure what kind of place this is going to be. This is the first I've seen it.
Like to respond to this question?
Sure. The portion of the property that we will be developing is all on the upland side. Of course, it's on a hill there. So it would be the upper side of the hill. The northern portion of the property is the low side, and there are wetlands on that part of the property. We will not be impacting the wetlands. And it does go down to a creek that's on the property. None of that will be affected.
Right, I've noticed it's been clear, but there hadn't been nothing to keep stuff from draining down into the water holes down there either.
Yeah, part of our plan is a large retention area, probably larger than it needs to be, and it will intercept all of the runoff from the development.
Okay, and I have no further comments. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I saw one other hand up in our room here. Anyone else in the room wish to make a comment? Anyone on Zoom wish to make a public comment? Raise your hand or if you're dialed in, *9 to speak. Not seeing any more hands up. So we will close the public hearing. Any questions from the committee? Recommend a motion?
Staff would recommend a motion to conditionally approve pending satisfaction of all outstanding comments.
Is the buffer comment already in the report, or is that?
It is, yes, sir.
We have a recommended motion. We have a motion at the dais. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Bill. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed
Aye.
likewise? Hearing none, this item is approved to move forward to development order subject to satisfaction of any outstanding comments.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This will move us to item number 14, the Alys Beach Block XX and 14 lots, a minor development reviewed by Tim Brown. Tim, if you could briefly introduce for us.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. This is a minor development order submitted by Innerlig Engineering. We're requesting approval to develop 14 residential lots in Block XX with associated infrastructure in the Alys Beach PUD on 1.66 acres with a future land use of mixed use and a zoning of traditional neighborhood development. Project's located on the south side of West Sugar Lump Lane, east of Sea Garden Street, and west of Kings Castle Court. There's 2 minor planning comments. To date, I have not received any comments from South Walton Fire. With that, I'd like to enter staff report into the record and turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you, Tim.
Sorry. It's, I'm Katie with
Could you speak into the microphone so we can capture all your comments on the recording, please?
Okay, is this better?
Yes.
Katie
much better.
Watson, Watson, Innerlig Engineering, and I'm just sitting in for Jim Martelli, who's the agent for Alys Beach. Do my best to answer any questions. I did want to note that Fire Marshal Sanchez did upload his approval letter last week, so that's probably subsequent to the staff report. And that's it. The plan is just to respond, since Tim's the only one with 2 minor comments, to respond and just respectfully request that we move forward to the issuing the development order.
Thank you, Katie. Any other questions from the committee?
Mac, my comments were submitted on Friday.
Thank you, Sammy.
Yes, sir.
And I might note that it was an approval letter with his standard conditions.
Yeah, this is a minor development. We'll take the opportunity to open a public hearing. Anyone here wishing to speak on this particular application or on Zoom? The Alys Beach Block XX, minor development. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a recommended motion.
Yes, a motion to approve the project pending resolution of all outstanding issues / comments and move it forward to the development order.
Thank you, Tim. We have a recommended motion. We have a motion at the dais.
So moved.
We have a motion, and do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to development order. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Tim. That'll move us to the next Alys Beach item, number 15, Alys Beach Town Center Building 5. Minor development reviewed by Tim Brown. Tim, can you introduce it for us?
Yes, thank you. This is a minor development order application submitted by Innerlig Engineering requesting approval to develop 10,456 square feet of commercial and 21 condominiums and associated infrastructure within the Alys Beach Town Center on .55 acres with the future land use of mixed use and a zoning of traditional neighborhood development. Project's located on the north side of Admiralty Road, east of North Somerset Street, and west of Mark Twain Lane. There's 5 minor planning comments, and as of the date of this staff report, I had not received comments from South Walton Fire. With that, I'd like to enter the staff report into the record and turn it over to the applicant.
So entered. Thank you, Tim.
Likewise, Katie, on behalf of Jim Martelli, who's the agent and engineer. Mr. Sanchez did also, for this project, submit last week, upload his approval letter with his conditions, standard conditions for this one as well. So we are requesting to move forward after responding to planning comments, Tim's comments, so it'll just go to him prior to the issuing of the development order. Questions?
Question from the committee? We'll take the opportunity to open the public hearing on this minor development. For anybody in the audience or dialed in by Zoom wish to make a comment on this application? Seeing none, either in the audience or by Zoom, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Yes, a motion to approve the project pending resolution of all outstanding issues/comments and move it forward to the development order.
Thank you, Tim. We have a recommended motion. Do we have a motion of the dais?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to development order. Subject to comments, satisfaction. And that concludes our agenda this morning. Thank you very much for attending in person or attending by Zoom.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Sammy. I think we can be adjourned. Yes. You're waiting for me.
You are muted.
I was waiting for her.
Goodbye.
Bye.